You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, an unofficial Disney Theme Parks podcast, and this is show number 397 for Sunday, the 20th of February 2022.
Where dreams begin.
Hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls. My name is Michelle Young, and together with my jolly good chum Jane Phipps, we are your guide to the place where dreams begin. Well, no Jane this week, but I have an extra special Disney friend who's going to join us on the show to talk about some of the fun he's recently had in Walt Disney World. Welcome back to the Disney Dream Girls, Anthony Markham.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm very excited to be speaking to my travel buddy.
Yes, in nearly 6 months, we'll be on a big old ship.
Nearly 6 months, we'll be on a big boat, big boat, big boat. Yeah, eating our body weight in Mickey bars. Oh, so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And digressing and talking a little bit about Disney Cruise Line, did you see that they floated off into the big old sea, the newest ship, the Disney Wish?
I did see that. I was a bit confused that they've had all this publicity, but didn't they just have to push back the first several sailings?
Yeah, unfortunately the little ship's not going to be ready in time, so they've had to sort of send a lot of stress to the poor old travel agents who have got to rearrange everybody's trips.
Oh, bless those dear souls throughout all this.
I know, but give Disney their dues without anyone having to kick off or complain. They said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you 50%. And it's like, what?
A friend actually had two separate cruises booked, and they were just going to pick between dates, and both of those got canceled. So, boom, their one cruise is now perfectly paid for.
Wow.
Right?
What a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes to show that at the moment, you are getting value on Disney Cruise Line, because when you're going on board, it isn't as full as it usually is. The food in the restaurants is amazing. You're still getting the socially distanced characters, but you're getting the shows. You're getting all of the enjoyable cruise line bonuses, such as the Disney Touches, the Disney Stateroom, and all of that. I'm so looking forward to this cruise, buddy. I really, really am.
Me too. I haven't cruised in so long, but after hearing for years how splendiferous Disney does it, to finally be able to do this, and with someone who's a pro at it, like you.
Oh, I wish I was a pro. I wish I'd had enough Disney cruises to be called a pro. I think I've done what? I've done 2 Disney now on the Fantasy and the Magic. I've done a Royal Caribbean, and I have done a Princess Cruise. So I've only done 4. So I'm not an expert. But
Okay.
If anyone wants to go with me on any research trips, I'm more than happy to try out a few more cruise lines.
There you go.
I live for holidays and I work for them too.
Yes, that's a good way to approach life.
Well, it is. Some people like to go out and eat every meal out and never even sully their kitchen with cooking. For me, I don't mind living on beans on toast if it means I'm going to get 3 weeks in the sunshine.
There you go.
And I think you're pretty much the same recently, particularly having an annual pass.
Yes, thankfully, I've been fortunate enough to average over 20 days each of the years that I've had my annual pass. I live in a town where the cost of living isn't very high. I don't lead an extravagant lifestyle otherwise, but I do splurge on my Disney trips, yes.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Your most recent trip, which you've only literally just recovered and probably only just about unpacked from.
Yes, indeed. It was a busy time, but so many special moments.
So you drove down from North Carolina.
Yes, 8.5 hours, drove overnight.
You
Mhm.
mad boy. Where did you accommodate yourself?
Actually, on this trip, I was over in a hotel off I-Drive, kind of near SeaWorld. It was a Marriott property. A former client was gracious enough to let me use her timeshare point.
Ooh.
There again, a reduced cost stay lets you go more often.
Again, it's making those accommodations to stretch the dollars a little bit more. And I know your previous trip, you'd stayed in the Disney bubble. Just thinking about the benefits that you have for the extra dollars of paying in Disney, did you feel that you missed out anything purely on the accommodation side of things this trip?
Accommodation to accommodation, no. It was a very, very nice resort, spacious room. But if it was a place to just go on vacation without theme parks, that would be wonderful. But since I did so much in the theme parks, it was about a 25-minute drive. And because I wasn't in the Disney bubble on property, I didn't have that early access perk, which really did affect some of my strategies as to how I toured this time.
Okay, well, let's link into that. Let's have a little chat about how you decided to plan your trip and whether you indulged with dabbling in the Lightning Lanes and Genie Plus.
Okay. First day, I arrived at Animal Kingdom, drove straight to the park. And because I wasn't a resort guest, of course, you're waiting back with the masses. So, to be honest, I didn't even look at Genie Plus or Lightning Lane that day. There's so little to do now in Animal Kingdom, thanks to Everest being down. I pretty much resigned myself to not seeing Pandora, but that's okay. I've had plenty of trips where I have, but I headed straight for the safaris. The crowds weren't too bad yet, but it definitely got busy later in the day. And later in the day, I took advantage of all the atmosphere that's in Animal Kingdom. The 2 different animal trails, the winged encounters that show that where the birds fly from the back and then land at the Tree of Life.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Of course, kite tails. Yeah, you can walk up anytime for those shows, but I do love them.
You mean I don't need a dining package for it or anything like that, Anthony? I'll to form a queue for 3.5 hours.
Exactly. If they ever put a lightning lane on that, I think they're going to get laughed off the internet.
But it's staying the course, because of its naffness. Is it becoming a cult classic that people just love to go and watch and hope they see some sort of like crashes of these big inflated characters?
I mean, that's part of the reason I was there. All jokes aside, it is very cute. I appreciate how there's got to be a high degree of skill to get those kites to turn and cut, particularly the smaller ones, to make them almost dance in time with the music. So I do enjoy it. Listeners, go check it out.
Okay. I'm not going to check it out until I'm there in person. I want to have the entire experience rather than it being sullied by looking at pictures. Although I did watch one of your videos you once graciously sent me and I thought, oh my word, yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. We're at Animal Kingdom. What did you eat? Because we know that, the food, the alcohol, all add to the experience of the attractions.
Well, Michelle, I was going to say, I missed the most important ride rope drop, but I made the most important dining rope drop, which is Nomad Lounge.
Whoop, whoop.
And I did manage to snag a table outside, so I saw all the character cavalcades. As we've discussed before, their menu is just so unique. I had the spicy tuna bowl. Again, the best churros on property, delicious drinks. That bar staff, I think, has been there as long as I can recall going to Disney. So you're getting a pretty high level of service, I think.
It is a lovely place where you can just go chill and watch the waterways and, as you say, the characters coming up and down on the little watercraft and just unwind, and it just helps you just to cool down because it is a relentlessly hot, sweaty experience being at Animal Kingdom.
Yes, it is. I don't know if you had seen, they have changed one of the Mickey cavalcade slightly with the new 50th anniversary music. I didn't catch that when I have been there on my trips before, so that was nice to be able to see a slight change. My Animal Kingdom day also came to a little bit early close because I've been driving all night, so I decided to recharge and have lots of energy for the rest of my trip.
Fantastic. Sounds a very busy, fun-packed day though at Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
So where next? The
next day I started out at Hollywood Studios. Again, I did not go for Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. I've been fortunate enough that I've done the big headliners. I've done the Slinky Dog and I've done the Rise. And so when I got into the park, which I did make it a point to be there towards the front of the non-resort guests because that part does get quite busy. But
Yeah.
I went straight for Tower of Terror, and then right after that into Rock and Roller Coaster for my first hour. I thought that was pretty good rope drop strategy.
Sounds it. Sounds a really good idea.
Yes, I had some new. Well, there was one thing that has finally returned that I didn't get to see when I was there in January, but that was Indiana Jones. So good to see that show back.
Has it been modified much?
Well, that whole crowd participation element where they would select a few to go down, that's gone. But honestly, if you didn't know that was part of it, they've replaced it with other things that seem very much in keeping with the show. And they do some audience cheering participation type stuff. It still flows so smoothly, and it was so good to see that show back.
I'm really pleased, but that poor guy with the Hawaiian shirt, I really feel for him. I wonder if he's been able to get a job in Hawaii Five-0 or Magnum PI.
I'm sure. Bless his heart.
Skill set, being able to wear an Hawaiian shirt and blend into the audience.
I know. Even the times I would see it and know that he's planted in there, I still wouldn't think anything about him. Right? Yep.
Oh, bless him.
I did have a new lounge experience while I was at Hollywood Studios.
Ooh.
I went to Tuned In Lounge for the first time.
Oh, my word. What did you think to that? Because that's attached to the 1950s diner, isn't it?
It is. I liked it. Honestly, I was one of the first ones in there, but it was quiet. This was about lunchtime whenever I went in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there were maybe 2 or 3 other patrons in there. It felt like, oh, wow, this is almost like a hidden secret. Pretty good bar menu. Here again, nice, welcoming staff. The drink I had was delicious. It was a cocktail made with apple moonshine.
Oh, nice. They are particularly well known, though, for their peanut butter and jelly milkshake there.
Yes, you could have had any of those, the milkshakes that the 50s primetime itself has. There was a couple that had a child with them, and they were sitting kind of in one corner, and the kid had the peanut butter and jelly milkshake.
Oh, so good. I went there a fair few years back and had the most delicious crab cakes. They were just so filling and so zesty and flavoursome. I really enjoyed it. And it is a top tip if you can't get a reservation for the restaurant. You can go to the bar and order bits and pieces and an alcoholic beverage at the same time.
Mm-hmm. But alas, I didn't do much dining that day in Hollywood Studios because I was heading over to Epcot.
Ooh. Why would you possibly go to Epcot during February?
I think I have a new favorite festival, Michelle.
Oh.
It's Festival of the Arts. I mean, the food. Well, that's the first thing I did when I got there, actually. I went to the Encanto booth and had the potato and chorizo empanadas. Yes, I actually had something besides fish.
I have heard nothing but amazing things about these. I know our friend Marla Chan's been down there and she's trying to eat them at least a couple of times because she said they were just so good. And I'm so glad you got to try them.
Well, all the food throughout the festival, everything is presentation. Beautiful photographs. Looks so great for Instagram. No, but I'm only slightly joking. But, that's not my typical flavor palette. But oh my gosh, I would have gone back to that booth multiple times, but I did want to try other things over the course of I think I went there a total of 3 different days.
Wow.
So, yes, that was my first stop that day. Then I had a touch of you with me because I went to Rose and Crown for a dining package reservation.
And we did actually talk a little bit about this on show 396, but we were looking at ahead towards the Flower and Garden Festival, where they've also got dining packages where you could get into the America Gardens Theatre for the performances. So why did you choose Rose and Crown out of the places that were being offered for the time you were there?
I needed a certain time window because I knew I was going to start at Hollywood Studios, so I needed a specific time frame. And I think the only options that were still left were Beer Garden and Coral Reef. Coral Reef is outside my budget.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, German food, and my tummy doesn't really like German food. So I wanted to have a nice day in the park. So it really came down to Rose and Crown. To be honest, I also thought about you because I know how you feel about Rose and Crown. So
It's not a place that I would go back to, I will be honest, but tell us a little bit about your menu and the foods you ordered, and then we can have a little chat.
Okay. So you order a starter, a main, and a dessert, and you pretty much have access to the full menu.
Was there any restriction on anything that you couldn't order with the package? You know, for say, for example, the catch of the day was $28. Was that off the menu, or were you okay with that?
No, in fact, that is what I ordered.
Ooh.
You can go for a higher cost entree and almost make it more worth your dollar because it it's that flat dining package cost. So I started with the coronation salad.
Nice classic British Queen Elizabeth II dish. Bearing in mind it's her platinum jubilee this year.
Oh yes, indeed. And then, as I just said, I had the catch of the day for my main, and that was honestly amongst the best salmon I've ever had in my life.
Wow. And salmon is a really tricky fish to get right.
Oh, just the perfect melt in your mouth texture. Skin was slightly crispy, but nothing was overdone. Oh, it was delicious.
You see, I would argue with you on your starter course, though.
Okay.
Whilst I do think coronation salad is lovely, I really enjoy it, you can't beat a good Scotch egg, and I believe, being an English person, they're not something traditionally you would get in the United States. Am I right?
You are correct. That is not something that is typical for the U.S. I actually have had one, though, before. My coworker makes them.
Now, does she do the runny egg or does she do the hard-boiled egg?
She does the hard-boiled egg.
No, you're doing it all wrong. You've got to get the egg so it is just cooked. Then you encase it in the sausage meat and then the breadcrumbs, and then you golden fry it. And then when you cut into it, the egg yolk oozes out and serves a lovely little sauce for you to dip the sausage in. That is sheer perfection. Hard boiled, nah, you've not had the right kind of Scotch egg, my friend.
I will trust your wisdom on that.
Okay. So you had your salad, you had the most amazing salmon. What did you do with dessert? What were your options?
Well, you heard my sigh of disdain. They had strawberry trifle and sticky toffee pudding, which, that is something that I think is quintessentially British, right? So I'm going to have that, and I've seen it on television. It looks so delicious. It was bad. It was so bad. Oh, it was so dry. I commiserated with you about it. It almost made the dining package a regret, but
oh no!
You said the trifle was probably worse, right?
I've had the trifle, my lovely, and for us in the UK, we have jelly at the base. Sometimes it's ladyfingers that are soaked into the jelly with sherry, or Swiss roll that's soaked into the jelly, or fruit, and then you have a layer of quite thick vanilla custard and then cream. So I don't understand why on earth there is graham crackers and in this at all. I don't understand it. They're not even things we can get in England.
Oh.
So, yeah, I just basically referred to that trifle as slop in a bowl because it was nothing like the wonderful Auntie Stella's wonderful, amazing sherry trifle that you have one spoonful and you're like falling asleep in your pudding because it's got that much sherry in it.
I would have much rather had that.
Yeah, the sticky toffee pudding though, can I just tell you what a sticky toffee pudding is if it's done right?
Yes, please, because
it's a classic British dessert consisting of a dark, dense sponge cake made with chopped dates and is topped with a sweet toffee sauce, and it may be served with vanilla ice cream or even more traditional, custard.
I think they had some type of custard, but it was already in the sauce. I don't. It was.
Yeah. You
Not
sent
worth
me.
the calories.
You sent me the picture, love, and it looked like a bundt cake. It looked nothing like sticky toffee pudding at all, and I don't think it had been anywhere near a date.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, maybe the date was 1965 because it sounded a bit dry.
Oh, that was perfect.
So did you feel that you had a good value though?
Yes, because of the strength of the main and the salad. Both delicious. I think if I would have totaled it up, it was under $7 difference, I think, between the package and if I'd gotten everything a la carte, as it were. And then I had that added benefit of just walking right up to the American Gardens Theater for the show.
Perfect. So talk to us about the show, because I know Jane and I haven't really delved into the shows, but I know you had a pretty sensational experience.
Well, I did see the shows 3 different times, and it just so happened that there was a changeover in performers in between the dates when I was there. So it's interesting how they select performers, because they choose a male and a female that have some degree of overlap in their Broadway experience. So my first evening, the night I had the dining package, both the performers had been in The Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
It lets them sing some songs from that one show, but then they could each sing other songs that they had performed before. So that first evening, the female performer had been in, which I didn't even know they had made this a musical, but Freaky Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she had been in Freaky Friday, both on Broadway, and apparently they filmed it, and you can watch it on Disney Plus nowadays. So she sang some songs from that. Plus, she had been Ursula in Little Mermaid. The male performer had been Chef Louis from Little Mermaid, so he sang Les Poissons. But he had also performed as Timon in The Lion King on Broadway, and they sang one song together from Tarzan, because they both had links to that too. It was a nice review of Disney Broadway songs. The second 2 nights, the performers had both been in Newsies. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but that's one where I think the Broadway version is much better than the theatrical version that they did with Christian Bale, probably decades ago now. But I would recommend checking that out. You could tell that those performers, since they had been in the same show together, they had a better rapport, just a better interplay, and they were lovely people because I got to meet them.
What? How did you manage to do that?
So you knew I was on this trip solo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I sit down the first night. I'm really enjoying it, and there's a lovely lady to my right, and she is super into the show. I thought I was into it, but no. And we're chatting, midway through, and she's like, "I know these people." Turns out the lady was actually friends with them. She had been on Broadway herself. She had let them know that she was coming to see them. And so she asked me when the show was over, she said, "Do you want to meet him?" And I'm like, of course I do. So,
hello?
You're at Disney, you're safe. Talk to new people. Who knows the kind of experiences you're going to have because of it. You can meet Broadway stars.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Anthony's met famous people.
Yes. All in all, that was probably my favorite part of Festival of the Arts. They do have another stage set up across kind of that port of entry area, and they have some aerial performers, some contortionists, and I think they have a mime performer, if I'm correct. But kind of a rotating schedule for that. There's much more entertainment there than just the Broadway, and of course they still have the Jameters and the band over there by Canada. That's all still going on too for you.
Fabulous stuff.
Of course, you can walk around and have a look at the lovely art, both from the sidewalk chalk art to the various booths where you may even meet your favorite artists. Sorry, I did not see Jared for you.
Aww.
But I did see Noah. He was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was there signing a couple of days while I was there. Another dear sweet man, Dave Avanzino, was there, and I got to chat with him.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember getting his picture for you over at D23.
Such a kind man, too. It took him a minute, but I reminded him of our tour of the Burbank lot back in 2015. And then he was like, oh my gosh, he was excited.
So, you missed out on anything that you really didn't get to do at Festival of the Arts, or were you happy with what you did?
I'm pretty happy with everything that I did get accomplished there. That was a big thing for me behind this trip, is because this is the one festival that I had not done before. So I wanted to really soak it in. And what do you think of the Rainbow Connection show now on Spaceship Earth, just for Festival of the Arts?
I hope they do more like that, with different sort of music and lightings and things, because now we've seen what they can do with the, as people call it, the golf ball. It will be amazing to see what they could do next with it. You know, it's just the little things, isn't it, that just make us fans go, oh!
Yes, it'll make us sit there for 20 minutes in a night just so you can catch it a couple times. Oh, it's so good.
Okay, I'm now really anxious and really, really excited about where you went to next, because you got to do something else that was a bit of a first as well.
I was excited for it when I booked it, but then to find out that I was part of the very first Keys to the Kingdom tour, quote unquote, post-pandemic. I mean, the first tour, 8 a.m. I just snagged a spot. I didn't pay attention to the on-sale dates. And what a happy accident.
Absolutely.
We had some of the higher ups, like the president and vice president, coming out at different spots on the tour just to say, you know, it's so good to see you. Welcome back. There was just a nervous energy throughout the whole thing that, you know, we've done tours together, also, Michelle. But it was just special, you know?
I'm sure I didn't pay $114 per person, tax not included. That's gone up.
Okay.
Considerably.
Okay.
But, you know, heaven's sake, how much has a Dole Whip or Mickey bar gone up? Let's be honest. Everything's gone up.
Indeed.
And it's this 5-hour walking tour of the Magic Kingdom with lots of trivia, lots of unique experiences. So tell us a little about your day.
Okay. We began at Main Street Theater. We met our lovely tour guide, Dana. She told us about her history with the company and about the history of the tour itself. She talks in general about Walt's keys of service. And then we began our journey. We walked across, like right underneath the train station. And we talked about how Main Street was designed. They talked a little bit about how some of the tricks that they used to make it appear larger than it is. And we talked about how the different windows corresponded to different important folks in Disney history. We made our way up to Center Street, that nice little alcove near the glass blowers that you so much love. We talked more about the history of how the property was bought, because several of the people who helped design and construct the property, they're listed on the windows on that side street. But she talked a little bit about how they had to buy everything in secret, and we learned how much land prices jumped once it was leaked that Walt Disney was indeed buying property there. Then we went towards the hub. We talked about how each land's theme is kind of brought forward to the entrance into that land. And then we crossed over to Adventureland, getting in ahead of everyone else. Talked about how they've designed that entryway to as soon as you're across that bridge, you can't see the castle anymore, which is something you just don't think about, like those small details. As we walked through Adventureland, we talked about how the design of that particular area was more free-flowing and not as, nice straight paths, and there's not the big dividers in between, like the natural area and the street, because you're on adventure. It's unknown. It's supposed to be an element of wonder to it. But we then went to our first attraction, Jungle Cruise.
Fantastic stuff, and nice quick access to the attraction, I guess.
Yes, but we didn't get the traditional comedic history. We got a history about how it started with more of a focus on Disneyland because that was obviously first, but how Walt had originally envisioned Jungle Cruise. And as we went through the ride itself, we talked about how we got to where we are today, and talked about how some of the animatronics and things that we see there have been recycled from other areas. Like the last elephant is actually Little Red from Kilimanjaro Safaris back in olden times. So it's nice seeing how the company still has little nods and little bits of stuff that you love for decades. And after Jungle Cruise, we went over to Pirates, and that was a good jumping off point to talk about the history of animatronics. We just talked about developments of how they progressed from the days of World's Fair to the A1000, I believe it is now, for the shaman over at Animal Kingdom. And then we had our first trip backstage. We went out by Frontierland, where the parades start, and we could see how close the show buildings are to one another. We think of them as being so separate, like Pirates versus Splash Mountain. But honestly, you could throw a rock from one show building to the other once you're backstage. Oh, the new cavalcade float that just started. What was it, yesterday?
Yeah, okay.
So we saw that cavalcade float last week. Yeah.
Ooh, so sneaky peek. And
sneaky peeks, yeah.
Alas, no pictures because you're backstage.
Yes, sorry everyone. Promise you I saw it. We saw the warehouses for all the parade floats, including Festival of Fantasy, which is coming back very shortly. And did you know that the electrical water pageant is also stored back there?
Is it really? Is that where it comes from?
Yes, that waterway, kind of on that Adventureland / Frontierland side of Magic Kingdom. And if you look out that waterway, you could see the Grand Floridian. But yeah, you just see these flat boats with these, well, it's broad daylight, these huge netting type structures. And you could see outlines of the different lights. And she would talk about how they would switch throughout the evening. So that was cool to see in the day. Then we moved back to back on stage, as it is termed, and we had our lunch at Pecos Bill.
Oh, that's a different choice then. I think we had ours at Columbia Harbour House. I think out of the two, I'd prefer Pecos Bill's.
I mean, I enjoy Pecos Bill's. Oh, I forgot to mention, we had made our lunch choice when we checked in. So that way, when we got to Pecos Bill's, we had our own separate dining room. And for distancing, they spaced individual parties at different tables. We had our own condiments brought to us. And honestly, I think with the serving size, was bigger than what I recall getting at Pecos Bill when I had been there in the past. But it was nice having it. It felt very special when you see everyone else coming into the crowded dining room, and we have our own little secluded dining area.
VIPs, darling.
Yes, that's also where we had our gift, our pin, our Keys to the Kingdom pin. I'll have to send you a picture of that. Most of the time on these tours, you'll get a special pin. Did we get one when we did Main Street to Marceline? I can't remember.
I believe we did, and all of these pins are totally unique, and they do change them out quite frequently, don't they? They do.
I in particular, I remember a very, very nice holiday one I had gotten. Those holiday tours, those are good if you get that chance. After lunch, we walked through Frontierland, talked about how the Rivers of America actually communicate with the waterway we had just seen. Talked about how the Liberty Bell gets in and out in the times that they need to do some repair work, or they're working on the Rivers of America themselves. And then we went to Haunted Mansion.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Along the way, she had talked about some of the different effects that they had. And of course, the Imagineers who created them, or not created them, used them to design Haunted Mansion, were allowed to go in the exit and have our immediate access. We had our own stretching room and pretty much just a walk-on. Thankfully, there were several people who were super excited about that. And then I had to tell them that I had actually gone inside that show building, you and I, several years ago.
That was such a good tour.
After Haunted Mansion, the pièce de résistance, we went into the Utilidors.
This is such a geeky thing to be able to do. Let's be honest. Because when you're in them, it's sort of like, oh, all the pixie dust and magic has just been thrown in the trash because, oh, it's like this. But if you're nerds like us, if you're the super geeky people and you want to see it, warts and all, and know how the magic is created, what an opportunity.
And oh my gosh, yes. And you think like when you get a sense of, we just see the theme park. When you get a sense of these people back in the 1960s and 70s having the forethought to build this huge system that nobody's going to see, it's phenomenal to me. And how well it's planned out to be, let's face it, it's a system of tunnels, but to have them going in the right areas, and it feels like it's its own city under there. It's so cool. I'm so glad I did that.
Any other secrets you want to share, or any other attractions you managed to get to ride on during the tour?
Sadly, that was about the end of our 5 hours after we did the Utilidors. I would say it's a wonderful way to spend your day if you're a Disney fan. I mean, truly. I can't recommend it enough. I just wanted to keep going, of course.
I feel it's such a shame that they have no longer offered the 4-park tour. I think Jane did that, and I think it was shortly afterwards they pulled it and changed it into like a 2.5-park tour where you go from park to park and you get to do the same thing, but in a real good depth to find out quirky things about each park. And I would love to do that. I think it's something ridiculous like 11 hours long, so it's quite a grueling experience. But the year that I'd booked it, they slashed it down to 2 parks and slashed it to like 9 hours, and we just said, whoa, no, I'm not paying all that money for a lesser experience. So we never did it, and they stopped offering it. So it would be really nice when all this construction work for Tron and the trains back and running and all of that they bring that back up where you can get to go and do a bit of a tour at Hollywood Studios and a bit of a tour at Animal Kingdom and at Epcot and of course Magic Kingdom.
Yes, that would have been something wonderful to see. Jane's lucky.
It sounds like you had an absolutely fantastic trip. Wonderful experiences, some delightful food, seeing some amazing shows, and getting to do that tour. What an absolute boon. When are you going back, though?
That's it, Michelle. I don't have anything planned.
No!
Well, I know. My annual pass expires in a few weeks.
Oh, surely you can fit another long weekend in. Go on.
Maybe it'll just have to wait for when I go down before our cruise.
True. We'll have to see if we can make some magic happen.
Yes. So sadly, nothing on the horizon for me.
Yet.
There you go.
We know something's coming up. We know you're going to book something. You just can't be apart from the magic for too long.
Yes. Promise you, you'll be amongst the first to know.
So excited. Well, we'll pop on over on our website, DisneyDreamGirls.com, some of Anthony's highlights from his amazing trip. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing it with us. So many fortuitous events that happened to you, particularly meeting such amazing, talented singers as well. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a trip of a lifetime.
Well, thank you for sharing. As usual, you can find us at Dis Dream Girls on Instagram and Twitter. Our Disney Dream Girls podcast family can be found over on Facebook. And of course, if you want extra Disney content, why not pop on over to patreon.com/Disney Dream Girls. We've just popped up a brand new episode for you, exclusive for our Patreon supporters on certain tiers. And it's always worth supporting the show and keeping us going. Anyway, lovelies, thank you so much for sharing this past 40 minutes or so with Anthony and myself. But until next time, it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.